that economic security and broader peace and security are tied together. We cannot speak about economic resilience simply as a development objective, but as a foundation for stability and sovereignty across the Pacific. We've heard on the challenges and opportunities panel quite the list of litanies that our region faces, but at the same time, the opportunities in human capital and resources that we share. We're going to hear from our esteemed panel a relationship between economic well-being, sovereignty and peace, and security across the region. And we'll serve to highlight why economic resilience, economic security remains a priority. We'll hear from the Honourable Elikana, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Immigration, Cook Islands. I think just before we started, the panel decided that he'd speak the longest and the rest would follow shortly. Sorry if I dubbed you in, was that what stays on the panel? My apologies, Minister. And then we have the Honourable Thomas Opper, Minister of Finance from Papua New Guinea, and the delightful Honourable Charmaine Scotty, Minister for Women and Social Development Affairs, and I would like to say from the Republic of Nauru. Thank you. And of course, a man who's already been introduced several times today, the Honourable Simon Coffey, Minister for Transport. He's going to speak the longest, for Transport, Energy, Communication and Innovation. But without further ado, because we will try to catch up on time so you make sure that you can get even more caffeinated at afternoon tea, may I turn to you, Minister Elikana, to just give us some context and some grounding.
Yeah. Me mua ke ola tātou tākatoa i nā daudau nunu o te matuada, ke talapadaina o na lilili. Na otua na maua te vaia ke welawe tātou. No ke ata waiwolo ke tō tātou matuada. Na onono i tātou, na kuikui i tātou i loto o te Pasifika. Na lulululu mai i tātou ki te vaia ni. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our excellencies, our partners, and also fellow colleagues, ministers in the room, and also participants, those blessed with long letters behind your names, and those who have the shortest like mine. Welcome, and also like to acknowledge the organizers for bringing us all together and the diverse representations that's in the room. I think it's a good representation of a true Pacific gathering and true to Pacific culture. I'll be doing the introductions, and then most of the talkers will be talking the longest than me. And because true to form, if you are the leader, you delegate. So as leader, so panel, prepare yourself to talk on these matters, because I'm just a leader, because I'm not an economist. So I got chosen to talk on the economy. And these distinguished panelists will be the ones to get down to the nut and bolts of it. But just to put things into context, particularly in regards with the Cook Islands, which my more link with, and which I probably talk about most. One of the things that we do not have is we don't have a military, we don't have an army, we don't have a navy, but we have is the most peaceful people on earth, including the Pacific. I know other countries will try to dispute that. You come close to me and tell me. But that's what we have. And the resilience to face challenges. As you know, the Cook Islands is becoming now the most talked about country in regards to what's happening in our waters, in our oceans. I note that the Peace and Security Outlook report alluded to the interest from our development partners, particularly the two big countries, economies in the world, which is America and China, and their interest in what is in our seabed and the economic opportunities available to us. That's something I will touch on later. Just what we have, though, is that we have 15 years of unbroken political stability. And that has enabled our economy to grow over the years. And for us, unfortunately for us, of our smallness, our economy stream, or if you want to look at our income stream, is much more on tourism. And I think most of you probably noticed in all the reports that we've done very well, and that has placed our economy in a very good position, and our country as well, to be enable us to meet the expectations of our people. And none of that stability comes from military capacity, but from economic and political stability. And that is the security that our country looks forward to. And that's why this meeting is really important, because it actually extends the meaning of security. Because I think traditionally we look at might, power, armies, military capacity, and we tend to forget for our small islands, that is not an issue for us because we can't defend ourselves. And if we take what's happening around the world with the use of military power and might, then we can't really stand up to these people. But what we have is economic stability and the need to stabilize for the resilience and further development of our countries. As I alluded to, the recent Pacific Security Outlook report draws repeated links between our country and the two geopolitical powers because of their interest in what's at the bottom of our seabed ocean. And I think the report also highlighted the security complexity involves in it with the involvement of the geopolitical powers. But you will all note that we appear on that map as a strategic actor because we hold something of strategic value, that is economic security. So we're looking at that to secure the future, not only of our people, but of future generations. And also you will note for the Cook Islands, because of our stable political environment and our growing economic we were classified as an high-income country. I don't know whether that is a blessing or a curse, but it's somebody else. It's some organization somewhere far away from the Pacific that decided that we shouldn't be able to access financial support. And this is something that we've taken on the chin, and we're working on it. But for us, we focus on building our economy and making sure that fiscal resilience, economic diversification, and the sovereign ability to say yes or no to any power that is greater than ours. And I think that's something the Cook Islands be proud of. And that's, but we are also I also would like to recognize the importance of some of our development partners in assisting the Cook Islands. And I say this with great respect to the others, but for us, the Cook Islands, and I'm not shy to say, the ADB has been our most effective partner in ensuring that we realize the potential of our economic development um, here in the Pacific and lay the path and also assist us in reaching our potentials. And I also would like to acknowledge our longtime partner, New Zealand, who has been with us over the years in providing the assistance to enable us in developing our economy and ensuring security for our people and also for those in our country to prosper as we face the challenges that we faced. This is not to look down on the assistance of the other partners, which are most welcome. And I know Australia is in the room. They've just, in a way, made available direct budget support. So might need to sit down with Australia and talk of increasing that to really support the economy of the Cook Islands to ensure that our people will prosper into the future. Apart from that, I think for us, it is timely that this conference this dialogue is convened to discuss and also to expand what we normally see as security issues away from military and power plays to what really matters to the Pacific, which is economic resilience and development for our people. With those words, I now hand over to the moderator and for these people to take all the time they need so I don't have to come back onto the mic. Thank you.
This is the challenge of sitting with high-powered ministers. Thank you so much for that. It's a really good reflection on that expanded term of economic security and resilience. I did want to turn to Honourable Scotty, if you would like to have a follow-up statement. And that was a rhetorical question.
Thank you, moderator. Moyeko, good afternoon, everybody. Old friends and new friends. I hope I don't bore you too much. For me, for Nauru, we believe that our economic resilience for the Pacific, it depends on our regional cooperation. You know, we always work strongest when we are together. Connectivity, physical, digital, and institutional cooperation can reduce costs, bring stronger transport networks, reliable telecommunications, and streamlined regional cooperation can reduce costs and create new opportunities for our people. Investing in our people. The Pacific's greatest resource is not beneath our oceans or on our lands, it is our people. Educating them, developing their skills, providing them with leadership, empowering our youth must remain central to our economic agenda. Thirdly, we need to continue strengthening regional approaches to economic resilience. Shared procurement mechanisms, coordinated responses to supply chain disruptions, and greater cooperation on energy and security can help reduce our vulnerability. As our leaders gather in Palau, I would encourage us to focus not only on immediate challenges, but also on long-term resilience. Economic growth must be inclusive, sustainable, and capable of withstanding future shocks. I would just like to say that, you know, we always mention the Waka. We all come from the Waka. But now, in modern times, our Waka has changed into our airplanes, our national airplanes, and our shipping lines. And this is what is now connecting our lands, especially for small islands like Nauru, who are vulnerable in ways that everything is imported. This is especially an important issue of economic resilience and safety for us, and security. The ships that bring our food also bring our medicine and the fuel. The digital networks that connect our communities and the institutions we build together as Pacific nations. The form has changed, but the principle remains the same. Whether we travel by ship or plane, the purpose is unchanged, to carry our people safely forward. And that is why peace and security must always begin with our people. It starts in our homes. A vessel is only as strong as the trust of those aboard. If people are afraid to speak, if abuse is ignored, if wrongdoing is hidden, if some passengers are protected while others are left vulnerable, then no matter how modern the vessel may be, it will eventually lose its way. The integrity of the journey depends on the integrity of the process. We must build systems where people can raise concerns without fear of retaliation. We must create environments where abuse, exploitation, and violence can be called out without fear of persecution. We must ensure that accountability is not viewed as a threat to unity, but as a condition of trust and well being. Because trust and truth is what keeps a vessel together when the seas become rough. As leaders, we have a responsibility to ensure that every person knows they are protected, every community knows they are valued, and every voice knows it can be heard. We must all follow, as leaders, the rule of law and be accountable not only to ourselves, but to the people that we serve. And we must be champions of good governance. I'd just like to talk a little bit about women's economic empowerment, which is very dear and very close to my heart. I don't know why. I think I must be a woman. But women's empowerment is not simply about increasing income. It is about increasing choice, creating independence, dignity, and participation in decision making. Nationally, governments must create enabling environments where women can fully participate in their economies. This includes supportive policies, access to education and training, affordable childcare solutions, and pathways into leadership positions. One lesson we have learned in Nauru is that economic empowerment must be accompanied by empowerment in decision making. When women have economic resources but lack influence over how these resources are used, progress remains limited. When women succeed economically, our families benefit, communities benefit, and nations and our men benefit. Investing in women is not a social expenditure, it is one of the smartest economic investments any governments can make. And I also would like just to talk a little bit about um, climate change, economic pressures, and security challenges. We all know how climate change affects each and every one of us. But we must always remember that behind all of this is always the most vulnerable that we must always think about. And that is always, again, the women and the girls that suffer, especially most during climate, when we have climate issues. So these vulnerabilities, I want people I'm thinking about Nauru, but I'd like the rest of the Pacific, excuse me, to be like Nauru, because I think Nauru is a paradise. And I want people to feel safe, in wherever they are. When we walk around, when we travel to each other's islands, I want us to feel that sense of security. We don't feel like, oh, I have to stay in the hotel room because I'm afraid. I don't know what's happening outside. I want that sense of security to be all within us, as we travel to each of our countries. And I think when we work together and we've got the Forum Secretariat to be helping us do all this work, and there's all our donor partners and all our, esteemed colleagues that have been in this space for a long time, and the ones that are coming up, our youths, to be all part of this great voyage, this new voyage for the Waka. And if we all work together, we are always strong together. A family that stays together and prays together is always blessed and will always progress forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Scotty. That was definitely not boring, very thought provoking, particularly like the imagery of the new Vaka and how it is a vessel that we are all part of and that we all need to make sure is safe and secure and that we all have a form of decision making to ensure that the VACA moves forward and not backwards. So thank you very much for that, as well as for centering us again on people-centeredness and the rule of law. I think we can see some real themes coming through from the trust we heard about, the integrity and the unity and the well-being of people. But I know that the advice that I was given also at lunchtime was to make sure that we have some interaction with the audience. So I wonder if I could go to you, Minister Opper, if you have a statement or if you'd like me to ask a particular question.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Turu Olgata. One talk. Greetings from Papua New Guinea. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Peebles and the Pacific Security team for the invite. I also acknowledge the presence of some of the most esteemed leaders of the Pacific, Dame Meg Taylor, Henry Puna, and also Baron Waka, some of the most esteemed leaders that we have in the Pacific. For Papua New Guinea, when you talk about the economic security, it's a national security. It affects not only Papua New Guinea, but the rest of the Pacific as well. And we are now facing a crisis that we didn't ask for or we didn't create with the crisis in the Middle East, in the Straits of Hormuz or Iran. And now we are affected with the increased cost of fuel and all that. So that's affecting all our countries, affecting cost of living, affecting inflation, affecting the economies of our countries all around the Pacific. And for Papua New Guinea too, it has affected us. We have created a response to the fuel crisis. We have given 100% since the global increase in fuel prices. We have given 100% subsidy, 100% subsidy to alleviate the burden to our ordinary people who go and get the fuel at the Bausa. Papua New Guinea is not just a big island nation. We also have a lot of far-flung islands. So there's many people that live in very remote islands. Some have to travel long distance, 4-6 hours away from the mainland to some of the scattered islands across PNG. So the increase in fuel prices has really affected not only the people on the mainland that will now buy more fuel at the Bausa, it also affects business. And if the business is not growing, they cannot make profit, they cannot employ people. So it has a broader implication on the well-being of people. So this is a concern that affects Papua New Guinea and also all our. I've been reading through what's happening right across the Pacific, and everyone's feeling the pinch of the increased cost of living, increased fuel prices, and Papua New Guinea. We are managing that process at the moment. We in our third month or fourth month now, giving a subsidy, fuel subsidy, 100% of $1 billion kina, which is equivalent to somewhere around $250 million US to our little people and this small business. It's quite unsustainable. So we are also monitoring the external conflict in the Middle East, and we hope that the conflict can come to an end, so countries can go back to their normal lives. But it's affecting our country. On the flip side, Papua New Guinea is also a small producer of oil and gas, so we will negate the implications on the economy by doing supplementary budget to look at this revenue windfalls for the country. So I think we are better placed as an island state in a big country like Papua New Guinea. We are looking at ways to contribute our smaller Pacific island states. And our Prime Minister in the recent Pacific Energy and Transport meeting in Port Moresby indicated with Papua New Guinea's intention to build smaller refineries to not only support fuel security in storage tanks and fuel security in our country, but also how we can contribute to our smaller Pacific Island countries as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can see a thread there from what Honourable Scotty said about what keeps us up at night with the immediate economic security demands, but also part of that long-term economic development thinking around the refineries, but also you mentioned the Pretum, or the Energy and Transport Ministers meeting, and the Pacific's commitment to that the low carbon transition. And with that, so I don't mean to stereotype speakers, but I wonder, Minister Coffey, if you had some remarks on country contextualization for economic resilience, and how climate change may impact that.
All right. Thank you, moderator, for the question. There was a question you posed earlier about what keeps you up at night. I can tell you that what kept me up last night was thinking about what to say in this panel. And I am still thinking. But otherwise, thank you. It's I think when we're talking about economic resilience, there's also related matter, but not the same thing, economic independence, which is something I also wanted to touch on very briefly, because I think that it's important to, from Tuvalu's perspective, applies to Tuvalu, is that we need to change the way we look at our situation, because we spend a lot of time in Tuvalu talking about our limitations, how small we are, how vulnerable we are to the impact of climate change, how far we are from the markets. But many of these realities are things that we cannot change. But what is important is how we respond to them. And I think it's important that when we are faced with those limitations, that we are pushed to innovate and to begin to think outside of the box as to how we find solutions. And I refer back to our ancestors, because they lived in very harsh conditions in the islands. Very difficult to grow things in the islands because of the salt in our soil. So they had to innovate. They had to find ways to survive in those harsh conditions. And many of that knowledge has been passed down over the years. And so what I'm getting to is that spirit of innovation and creativity. Not complaining about the limitations, but really finding solutions for ourselves. There is a line from one of my favorite songs, The Gambler, by Kenny Rogers, that says that every hand is a winner and every hand is a loser. And so I think for us in Tuvalu, economic resilience is not about wishing for a different hand. It is about making the most of what we have. And I just wanted to touch on that, because I think that's the shift that needs to take place for us in the islands. Because from there, then you create things, you build systems, you find new ways of generating revenue. And I think diversification is important. When we're talking about economic resilience, is diversifying our economy and looking at different sources of revenue. But diversification does not mean simply doing more of what we have always done. I think it means looking for opportunities in places we may not have considered before. And one area that I believe has enormous potential for the islands is the digital economy. Unlike traditional industries, the digital sector is not constrained by distance the same way we are affected now because of our distance from the markets. When you enter the digital space, your market is actually just a click away. And so the limitations that we complain about do not exist in that space. And I think there is enormous potential for us to explore that. Things like remote work, digital entrepreneurship, online services, content creation. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's something that I think we need to tap into. I wanted to bring an example of how Tuvalu has dealt with our internet domain name. So every country is assigned a country code. We were very lucky to get a very popular domain name, is .tv, which stands for Tuvalu. And as you know, .tv is very popular because it's associated with television, with online streaming. So there's a lot of interest in .tv. So we've actually repurposed .tv because usually when you have a country code, there has to be a link to the country. So only companies within that country can register that domain name. But for us, we have repurposed that, and anyone in the world can use .tv. But how we handled it previously is that we were more a passive partner. We engaged, we outsourced it, and we received a fixed revenue over the years. But when we came into government, and in 2021, I had the opportunity to oversee the work with the .tv. We put it back out to the market with a different model. And the model is that Tuvalu would retain the governance and policy control of .tv, and that we would only be paying the company that provides us the platform and the technology. And again, I want to give this as an example in how we're shifting the way we look at these things. We could have been, just relax and continue to receive what we've always received, but a deliberate decision was made to, no, we have to take control of this sovereign asset. We need to work to make this grow. And so under the new arrangement, in its first year, we doubled the revenue that we've generated from .tv, and we're still growing that. And not only that, we're using it also as to train young people so that they're involved in the industry as well. We providing training in AI, website building, all the services that are attached to an internet domain name. So this is an example that I wanted to share with us, because I feel that there's an enormous potential for young people as well in the digital space. And I know in this day and age, as a father of three, our kids, they love to be online. They love to consume content on whether it be TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. But there is also a need for us as leaders to try and shift as well our young people from merely consumers to creators of content. There's a big market for our local content. And what we're seeing right now is that a lot of YouTubers are coming into our countries and filming things about our culture and the way of life of here. And again, it's being told by someone outside of the country. And I think this is a space that our young people can take advantage of and really not just create content, but also a revenue source for them. But again, there are things as a government that we need to do to enable that environment for the young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists. Some thought-provoking ideas, as well as some grounding in what economic security looks like in action. I tried to do some quick statistics, and by the way, thank you for the gambler. It clearly paid off. I think we've got a new theme tune. But I was trying to look at some statistics when we talk about being people-centered. And there's great debate on what our actual numbers are. But I think it's quite safe to say that a third of our population is classified as young people, and therefore the digital economy becomes increasingly important. And in addition to that, there's, and please don't quote me on this, but it's just to give some ideas of how many jobs that the Pacific needs to generate each year, and that's anything from 75,000 to 150,000 jobs. And we can't all be farmers, we can't all be lawyers, we can all be gamblers, I suppose. But there's really something that we need to be thinking about strategically as to where the capabilities are needed to keep that stability that Cook Islands has spoken to talk about the ease of transition that Papua New Guinea has highlighted, to keep the VACA moving forward from Nauru, and then the digital future. I think, would you either of the panelists like to respond to any of their fellow panelists that might have triggered? I know you didn't want to talk for too long, but just some interaction before we go out to the audience.
If I may just, picking up on the concept of economic resilience in the Pacific and the analogy associated with the VACA. And for those who heard me speak at the Oceans conference in Solomon's last week, my analogy was the choir, where we got a choir, as you have seen this morning, our harmonies, how beautiful it sounded when they sing in tune. And this is more directed where we need capital to drive our VACA and also need capital to make sure that our choir keep on singing the same tune. And the matter I alluded to was more directed as our partners, towards our partners. That's when you join us in developing our countries, our economic prosperity, that it has to be driven by us. And that's when you join the choir, that you learn the song, that you learn the tune, that you sing with us. Please don't introduce what you think how we should be singing. Please sing with us. If you want to join our VACA, please drive us in the direction that we want to go. Don't try and influence us to divert, to suit your agenda, whatever that may be, your tune, whatever that may be. I think that's something that needs to be said. I know in the previous panel that we more concentrated on what we should be doing. But there is a key element that's always being overlooked. And I feel in all the workshops and all the dialogue that I attend to, we more focus on what we should be doing in terms of collaboration, in terms of solidarity, in terms of coming together. But there is another interest in the room that we need to take along on the journey, and that a very strong interest that could divert us from what is that we are trying to achieve. And if you are in this room, and if you are with us, please sing with us the song that we have written for us. Sing with us in line with how we want it, and also direct our VACA in the direction that is best for us as we see it. Let us determine our own destiny. Let us determine where we should be, and let us determine what the Pacific should look like and what security in the Pacific should look like. I thought I'll just share those words because they are very important to me.
Thank you so much. Minister Opper, would you have any further reflections? No, you don't? Okay. Honourable Scotty, any further reflections? You're fine. Oh. You're waiting for the questions. Honourable Coffey, do you have any further reflection?
Yeah, just a very quick a comment following on the point about the fuel crisis that we're facing at the moment, and I think it's something that we should look at as a wake up call in terms of looking at our own transition to zero carbon or to low carbon, because I think for me, in Tuvalu, we do a lot of advocacy on the international stage, but what are we doing on the local level to achieve that transition? So it's no longer just an environmental issue, it's now become a security issue for us, that we've become so dependent on fossil fuels. And when we shut the tap off, we won't survive beyond a month for some of us. So it really exposes our vulnerabilities, and it's important that we start preparing now. We don't know what the next crisis will be and what it will look like, but it's important that we are taking concrete actions to prepare for that. And this is why I mentioned in my talk this morning about the Pacific Blue Shipping Partnership that was just launched last week, because it focuses on the transition for our domestic shipping. And the Marshall Islands are really taking the lead on that front. And many other Pacific Island countries were there present at that meeting. And we're really looking at how we can do things on the local level, so that we are not just talking the talk, but we're walking the talk as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can have a bit of imagery in my mind of the different fleets of VACA going out across the Pacific, addressing multiple challenges at the same time. But I know that Honourable Scotty will side-eye me yet again if I don't come out to the audience for some hard-hitting, very difficult questions. And the gentleman in the front didn't let me finish my sentence. So over to you, sir. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. As you can see, we did not fall asleep after lunch. I have come here with a great sense of humility. I come from IPA, the ASEAN Interparliamentary Assembly, so from another part of the Asia Pacific. And I have been overwhelmed and very impressed by the great wisdom by the people in the Pacific here. We share very common values in this part of the world: family, education, respect for elders. And I sense also that from both parts of the Asia Pacific, we have faith in God, faith in the common good. We honor our words. Words are very important. In the old days in my country, Cambodia, we have a large Chinese community. If they agree among themselves to do commerce, they don't need to ink a paper. They just give their word. And the word used to be honored in the old days because not many people could read and write, but the words are kept. And I think that this is very important also in this part of the world. So I'm very, very much impressed. I sense a very strong sense of resilience and wisdom that guide us to move forward. I have two questions. The first one, we want to learn more. Is there any coordination and cooperation in fiscal policies? Number two, the problems that we face in many parts of the world are not the tariffs, but the non-tariff barriers, the NTB. And do you face NTB, non-tariff barriers within your own region of the Pacific? And do you face also NTBs with external partners, which I do believe that they exist? Even between ASEAN countries, we face NTBs, though that we have a free trade agreement. But sometimes, goods do not reach their destinations because of the non-tariff barriers. So even digital economy, even artificial intelligence cannot help when the goods cannot reach their final destinations. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a second question while the panelists can reflect on those first two. Megan, there's a lady behind you. Sorry, thank you.
Hello, Bula Peñaca. My name is Vehia Wheeler. Hello, I'm coming from Tahiti. Thank you for this very interesting panel on a very important issue, but also, I admit, very difficult to ensure for our islands. For my question, I was wondering, many of our islands, we do have some economic centers of power, such as like urban areas, and these places experience economic security differently than, let's say, those outside of these areas. So, in your guys' experience and your guys' opinion, how can we ensure more of an equal distribution of this economic security out to the outlying villages, communities that are in our islands? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll just remind the panel what the questions were. One was, are there any coordination in fiscal policies? The second question, are there any logistical, technology, and procedural barriers that are faced that influence economic security? And the last one is, how can we best ensure equitable economic development? And I have one more question. I'm trying to turn my head politely. Who's waving? Hi. One more.
Hello, Lele. Pulabinaka, everyone. I'm Sally Lola here from the Pacific Islands Association of NGOs. I just want to introduce our civil society. We are in the room. We have a couple of us here. my not so much a questions. I'm just like thinking out loud here. In terms of talking about economic security, we have seen over the years a lot of the resilience, economic resilience of our Pacific is based on our informal economic system. We have seen that in 2009 when all the financial global crisis crashed. There's a lot of reflections. The ability of our Pacific to respond to that was the smallhold farmers, the family farmers were able to put out basket of cassava or taro in the front of their house, and they get a bit of money to run their household. COVID-19 again demonstrated that. When the tourism and everything else fail because of the borders closed, everyone that lost their job goes back to the ocean and our land, and they manage to survive. Unfortunately, when we talk about economic security, the very ocean that kind of hosts our resilience is the very ocean that we start thinking about commoditizing investors to come in and dig up our oceans in deep sea mining, and that's still the challenges that we face that divide our Pacific as a block. Some of those practices that we, civil society, are very strong in advocating, that we look at the ocean as our health, as our culture, and everything associated with our people. We still have our legacy around nuclear. Some of those things I felt like that we need to bring that back to the conversation in the room. We can't go out from this room with so many wisdom holders and expertise in all fields without talking about some of those challenging things that we are facing. That oftentimes we can't see it right in front of us, but we know the future of that is critical to our security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, representative of Piango, and of course, welcome to civil society in the room, along with all the diverse representation we have. But I'm just going to observe the time and just give the last moments of the panel to respond to those three questions. Do I have any first takers? Thank you, Papua New Guinea.
Thank you. On the first question by our good friend from Interparliamentary Agency on coordination and cooperation, I believe there's a lot of discussions going on in Pacific Island Forum as well, under the Best Pacific, Blue Pacific content. And in the recent meeting in PNG by all the Pacific Island countries, where all the energy ministers and all the transport ministers came together, and I think that gave prominence to some of the discussions going forward. And I believe some of those outcomes will be taken into the PIF shortly. So yes, there has been some discussions in this regard. On the non-tariff barriers, I'm not sure of the different status of all our Pacific countries. I cannot speak for all the countries on the free trade arrangements. For Papua New Guinea, we don't have any free trade arrangements with any country, but like many other countries, we are also affected by the non-tariff the barriers as well. Question 2. Someone asked about the economic distribution of benefits from the fuel crisis and how we can fix that. I think the more discussions that we have, the more Talanoa, the more discussions, the more meetings augurs well for all Pacific Island countries to come together to appreciate and understand our unique challenges, our uniqueness, and then we can be able to find a common ground. And we all know what we have in the as our commonalities as one Pacific, and so we can be able to work with some of our regional partners or big countries like Australia and New Zealand to find solutions in some of these challenges, economic challenges that we're facing at the moment. Yes, those are my response. Thank you.
Thank you. Cook Islands.
Yeah, I think in terms of where there is a coordination mechanisms, I think this is where we all need to sit down. And I think the Pacific Island Forum is undergoing a structural review mechanisms of particularly with the issues. I think one of the things that I've observed over the years in terms of there are a lot of issues being addressed by different entities. I think it's timely that we try and bring these issues together to one body to address. I think that's the issue raised by the keynote speaker in terms of fragmentation. It's not only country and island state fragmentation, but also institutions fragmentations that need to be addressed. And I think that's a very important thing to address. I mean, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about economic issues, but these are, at the end of the day, is single issues that need to be addressed. Because once we separate these issues, I mean, we talk, the earlier panel talked about governance, and this panel talk about economic security, and then I'm sure the next panel will probably talk about financial security. It's the same thing at the end of the day. Why can't we bring it together and address it holistically? It's one subject that affects us. At the end of the day, it affects us. That's my view. In terms of the barriers, I think we all face it, and that's one of the hurdles that we need to address, because it's no point trying to get market accessibility when you can't get to this market. It's no point developing your products and that it can't get to market, to the markets. And then you also have faced the issues of connectivity, and those issues need to be addressed in a single manner rather than having separately addresses. Then you run into the problems of people going on different tangents, and the problems still exist. In terms of the question from our friend, in terms of the economies because faced by those, I think that's the real issue for us in the Cook Islands in terms of urbanizations and rural areas. But for us, our economy center is right in Rarotonga, and then you got people like me who lives in the northern group, and there's some in the southern group. Because a clear example is this. We get freight, we get international freight on the price of goods that gets to these northern islands. Not only they pay the cost of international freight when the goods get to Rarotonga, they also pay the cost of national freight. So it's something that's the government, interestingly, with the fuel crisis that we are now facing, government has stepped in to assist the most our people in the outer islands by providing some support and providing fuel to the islands to assist them in the work on those islands. So it's something that we have to look at how we address it. But I can understand in terms of fairness, equity across the board with all our citizens is something that every country should be addressing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At the end of the table, second to last.
Just a quick comment, and I believe the questions have already been answered. But one of the challenges that we face in the Pacific is, as I mentioned, the distance from the markets, and so the shipping cost, the freight is very high, particularly for countries like Tuvalu, Kiribati, Nauru, and Cook Islands as well. But I think ours is probably more expensive than you guys.
Competition here.
But this is an example of, when we're going at it alone, we cannot achieve the economy of scale. And one of the reasons why we formed what we call the Central Pacific Shipping Commission, which was formed by 5 countries, Tuvalu, Nauru, Marshall Islands, Wallis, and Kiribati. And the purpose of this commission was because shipping to these countries was unreliable, very expensive, not consistent, and it was very difficult for one country to approach companies and negotiate for better conditions. And so the commission was to bring together these countries, put together the volume of our cargo, because that is the other incentive for these companies. There has to be, more cargo coming across. There's the greater incentive to service your country. And so I think this is another great example of the value of working together as a group. And I think it's important as leaders to see the value of that, because sometimes when we're so focused just on our national interests, we lose sight of the bigger picture that could actually be more beneficial to the country. And so that's just wanted to add that to the discussions.
Thank you, moderator. I'd just like to mention that, in regards to collaboration in between countries, like I stated earlier, and it's been talked about by fellow panelists, the Pacific, we are stronger when we are together because, this has happened to Nauru before. I don't know if you recall the PRAN, the Pacific Regional Assistance to Nauru. That was in the, I think, late 90s. And that was when Nauru already had been through economic problems. It was really bad. It's like what we're talking about now, but it was a lived reality on Nauru. We had no electricity. In Nauru, growing up, I never knew that firewood was used for cooking because we always had electricity. And then when this happened, when this period, when we all lost everything, and there was just nothing. There was nobody going to school in Nauru. Like, we're just rebuilding everything. Now we've got good rates of children going back to school, but we, in the past previous years, we had really bad truancy. We probably had, I don't know, maybe not even 100 people, children going to our high school. There was no future. Like the Nauruans saw no reason to go to school because there was nothing. But the region came to our assistance. It is called the PRAN because Nauru reached out to the region and the region helped us. And so this is why I'm talking about the collaborative strongness when we are together, because it is a lived reality for us. I'll give you an example. But when I was, because I've been working, I'm an old woman. When I was working in the public service, I was working, and every fortnight I would receive $50. That was my money for working for a whole fortnight. But luckily for us, government helped with accepting checks, and subsidizing costs of food and stuff like that. And to top it all off, we had a really long period of drought. There was no coconuts to cook with, to peel get the skin and do the cooking outside. So that's when I understood that fire was used for cooking, because there was no coconuts left to use on Nauru. Because unfortunately or luckily for us, we are only just one island. And there's no other island to get other things from. And like, the power was on like for maybe 2 hours a day. So everybody in Nauru knows what security issue is, what economic challenges really means. Nauru, we keep moving up and down. We were very rich, then we became very poor, and now we're climbing up the ladder again. This is through Pacific resilience and through Pacific collaboration. And I believe that if we work together, it is a possibility. It is not a possibility, it is a reality for the region. We all have each other. And like, if I need help, I can get on the, the the tin can, and I can call the Tuvalu or send a thing, send a bottle to Kiribati with the SOS. But I truly believe in Pacific regionalism. I know that this is a reality, and I have faith in our crop agencies and the PIF that they are there. You know, our leaders were very smart in creating the forum, because this is what keeping us as a group, and we cannot um, forget that this is our strength. This is what makes us as a strong region, uh, a region to be reckoned with in the international world. And I would also just like to comment on the mention of nuclear. I understand the point. You know, I've never lived. I'm not from the Marshall Islands, but I live close enough to understand what they are living through, and like I would like to help them. And I believe that all of us would be happy to help the people in the Marshalls and Tahiti, I think, and all other Pacific regions that have this problem. Because anybody that has a problem in the Pacific region, I feel it is our duty to help them. Especially that we are leaders, that's what we've been appointed for, to help make better quality of living for our people. What is the point of being a leader if you cannot do that? You know, power is given to you, God given power. People elect you because they trust you. So that trust, we must ensure it goes to the people. So I'd like the forum, these discussions, to include the topic on nuclear. It is part of the Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a really moving, historical, and also forward-looking end to this panel discussion. So please, can we all give them a warm and appreciative thank you? And to everyone in the room, this is not just a ministerial agenda, as we've heard, it's a shared agenda. So please, as you go and take up your next cup of coffee, your next cup of tea, really think about what is your role in supporting economic security in the Pacific. Thank you, Tomas.